Sweet, we're good. Hopefully a few more people kind of filter in, but as I sent in the Slack channel today, really heavy hands-on night, going to be covering 8 different chart types. So very similar to how we did last week, where the first little parts of the lesson, and then we kind of go hand through side by side. Last week we did the line chart, bar chart, scatter plots. Now we're going to do 8 of those. So I want to go ahead and get going right away, so we have plenty of time to take through those in an appropriate manner. Week 3. So we're officially done with 1 week. I don't know why it says week 3. It should say night 3. Officially done with 1 week. 3 to go. On to week 2, night 3. Title of this lesson: Other Ways to Visualize Your Data. So last week, as again, we went through 3 basic that I use for about 90% of all data viz stuff. Tonight's really about building on top of those and understanding different use cases for the other 10%. So we're going to go through text tables, highlight tables, heat maps, a dual axis chart, which is another one of my favorites, tree maps, Gantt charts, pie charts, and then if we have enough time, the all-elusive donut chart. So jam-packed night, very excited to get into it. But as always, we're going to start with storytelling. So I did have 3 people send me theirs beforehand. So I may ask you 3 brave souls. Oh, and Chris just sent me his now. And so since he's first and top of mind, I may ask that he comes up and walks through this. And then we'll go, Linda, you did last week, so maybe Chris, if you don't mind going through yours. And then Rashendo, you also sent yours, so that'd be a good practice for see how it looks online as well. But Chris, if you want to come up first, I'll pull yours up. And I also, I apologize to anyone watching online. I went back and watched last week's and realized I wasn't sharing the right screen. So you guys just heard us talk without being able to see anything, so my bad. But that is fixed this week, I promise. All right, so this over. All right, good everybody. Feel free to use the mouse on the laptop to move around the screen.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, so did a new data set this week. Can't even remember what the data set was last week, but did startup venture funding. I was in the startup world right out of college, so always kind of close, near dear to the heart. So I did 2 pretty simple ones with the data that was provided. So the startup venture funding is the whole, I guess, thesis of this. And then one of the more broad categories is the startup status. So it was in 3 buckets that I was able to pull, so acquired, closed, and operating. And I thought that was kind of interesting. Like whenever you think of startups, you think risky, and the numbers provided showed that more acquired than closed holdings. With both of those, try to follow what we learned in class by keeping them pretty simple, getting those lines, removing the lines that aren't needed, trying to condense, get rid of all that filler. And the line chart on the right is talking about the funding when companies first receive funding and then what amounts they are. So I played around with the tooltip. The tooltip was really ugly, so just adjusted a little bit like we talked about. And as you can see, I mean, massive dollars in the more recent years as compared to the past. And then I was able to toggle these off. It was the data set from like 1960 to 2014, and there wasn't, times changed, so there wasn't mad investment, so I was able to toggle those off to limit the breadth of the chart. And that's pretty much it.
Awesome, love it. So I think that, hey, how's it going? I think that these are 2 beautifully made charts, especially once we covered last week, the data ink ratio and really keeping things simple. These look like 2 that I would make myself. So awesome job, so great. Yeah, Snapchat Live. All right, Chris, you want to come up? I think I have yours right here. Careful, there's 70 cords laying around here.
So yeah, mine's really just about a Netflix data set. Just random. Kind of got frustrated with it, to be honest with you. There's just so much information, so much data. I really just narrowed it down 2015, 2020. Movies added that by year, the first chart on top there. Then movies added between that time frame based on rating, not rated PG, 13R, on that bottom right chart. And then the last chart to the left there, scatter chart, is based on seasons of the shows. How many seasons in between that time frame and the minutes of total minutes of those seasons of shows. So real simple. Like I said, kind of got frustrated with it. I think Charlie came over and got to help me out a little bit. That's it.
No, this is great. Snaps spot. What I love about this one is like with all the different filters and stuff on the side, I instantly have like 20 more questions and like how to dive in deeper. I'm sure that's kind of what you were getting to. Like added by rating, that's really interesting that the majority were rated R. I was even thinking maybe if we combine this one and the line chart, maybe that's changed over time as that place has become broader and more, I don't know, maybe it's gotten less R-rated as the population's gotten more general, or maybe they feel more confident in their selection now they're adding more R-rated movies. I also think that these are really interesting. I've never heard of the show Love, but the longest show from duration and only 3 seasons. It must have just been like 3-hour-long episodes or something like that.
3 specials.
Yeah, exactly. So no, it's super interesting data set. I totally get why you're getting a little overwhelmed with the possibility. And it's tough, like a lot of times, and I tell like people at work this all the time too, like if you don't have a good understanding of what, like the business logic behind what the data is, it's impossible to know even what to look for. If you're like, okay, this field is populated by this, this column is populated by this field in our CRM, or this is showing this data point, or even taking the next step of like, here are the questions we want to ask. If you're just given a blank data set and say, hey, make a chart, it's like, well, where do I even start? I don't know what the data is. I don't know where it came from. I don't know how to build it. So it may seem frustrating, but I promise this is really, really good practice and reps, because once you have that intuitive knowledge and understanding of those other 2 steps, the visuals become a lot easier. So you're kind of doing the hardest part without any background. So I do recognize that. I did shoot over a link in the Slack channel when we get to our assignment tonight. After last week, because you weren't the only one that was really struggling finding a good data set to practice on some of these. And like there has to be something similar to Superstore that has a good broad, like here are dates, here are some good measures, some different categories. And I found this blog is by Hacker Noon, which I never heard of, but it goes through like 14 different data sets and kind of explains. They're all very wide, has a ton of different information. They seem interesting too. So if you guys want to check those out tonight, I dropped the link in the Slack channel.
I was going to ask really quickly, when you have it, are there specific, or how do I want to ask this? With a particular data set, are there specific things you look at within the different variables, and you already know which kind of chart you're going to use? Like you said, I found these really cool data sets, but the scatter plots weren't going to work very well. The line charts barely worked.
Yeah.
For at least to fit, And I guess that's why we always search for a chart rather than a data set. But I didn't know if there was any typical variables that come into play with what chart you're going to use.
No, and that's a really good question, because typically you work the other direction, right? Is you find the data set and then you figure out which charts you want to build on top of it. Whereas here I'm asking you, here are the charts that I need you to build, find a data set that work for it, and a lot of times those don't align. So no, I would say that it's definitely an inverse kind of roadmap in this class as opposed to when you're doing stuff in practicality. All right, Crescendo, if you don't mind, if you can share your screen, or I can pull up as well. Actually, if you don't mind sharing your screen, we can make sure that works and walking us through what you put together.
Yeah, let me share my screen. Okay, are you able to see it?
No, not yet. You may need to hit add to stream. Do you see your own screen that you're sharing? If not, it's not a big deal. I can pull it up too.
Let me. I thought I had it.
Let me try. I'll remove mine. Maybe now if you try.
Okay, I think I. Okay,
That's okay. I'll go ahead and pull it up on my side.
okay,
And then I'll just have you walk the class through it here.
okay.
Cool. All right, we can all see it.
All right, let me. I don't.
Oh, and then I made that.
I'm kind of.
Oh, just dropped from the stream.
Oh, no.
Well, hopefully he comes back in. Because I am. Wait, there he is. You're back.
All right, I'm gonna pull my Tableau on my end.
Okay.
So the first thing that I did was to find a data set on data science from Kaggle. And once I got this data, I looked in Excel to see what kind of data I was dealing with. And the first thing that I noticed is that the data had a country code, but it didn't have the name of the country. So what I did, I searched, went online, searched a database that had the country code and the country name, then merged those. So I was able to find the name of the country, because my goal was to answer what are the 10 top paying jobs in data science and what jobs could be done remotely. So if we look on the graph on the top, I filtered the 10 top paying jobs with the company located in United States. And also I filtered it. I had a few filters. I had the work year filter to filter only 2023. So I was more interested in the last year. It's only 2 years, but I was more interested in 2023. And also I added the experience level. I wanted to see what jobs could be done remotely and what level. And interesting, what I find is that majority of the jobs that can be done remotely are either so it can be the yeah, it could be the mid-level, intermediate, senior level expert, and executive level director. Interesting also that the entry level jobs, usually they don't offer, based on this data set, doesn't offer remote jobs. But I was kind of, I was kind of, um, I was kind of curious about the data analyst lead that it says that it pays $405,000. That is the average for all these jobs, for these 10 top jobs, which I don't know if it really pays that much. I even went online and kind of did more research into that job. But um, yeah, that's the data set that I choose to work on.
I love it. I think it's a super interesting data set. I think if I can find whatever company is offering 405,000 for the data analytics lead, I will be applying for that. You won't see me on Wednesday.
And with a lot of jobs being remote nowadays, it opens the doors to people to work anywhere, especially if I want to be in another country and be this kind of jobs. What are the jobs that paying the most? And also,
Right.
I was looking to find what countries pay the most. And interesting, there's a few jobs, a few places like Portugal, Canada pays very well. It's been a remote job.
Interesting. Yeah, I can definitely relate to your comment too about the data set just having the country codes in there. That's an exercise I've had to do 100 times where people just store the country codes and you want to make it look nice in your data viz. So instead of going and looking up one by one, going and finding a data set and matching up against that, definitely a route I've taken as well. So interesting data set. Nice job on the charts. They look great. I think that, similar to Chris's, I have like way more questions than answers after looking at this, so we may have to spend some time going through it as well. But that was the point, is to instigate questions and conversations. So fantastic job, Archendo.
Thank you.
All right, I'm gonna pull this back up. Any other questions, comments, concerns about what we did last week? Anyone super proud of what they did and want to show? Hate what they did and want to complain? Otherwise, we'll go ahead and get going. Cool. All right. So as I mentioned, these are going to be the 8 different chart types that we're going to go through tonight. Hopefully 9, because the donut charts are fantastic. The one thing I did want to call out is those first 4, text table, highlight table, heat maps, and dual axis chart. This is a really, really logical progression as you start building stuff out of like crawl, walk, run, sprint, whatever you want to call it, that I do think have a lot of practical applications that I use when I start a lot of analysis, is like just to understand how the data looks, how it's structured, things that I want to highlight a different way. I will start with just building one of these out until I understand it, and then tweak it to show eventually how I want to present it. The last 3 are very, very specific ad hoc cases that are really fun to make, and they look really cool, but I'd be lying if I sat up here and said that I use them all the time. But they'll give good Tableau experience on how to build specific things, and we'll cover some stuff we haven't in the past to round out your understanding a little bit better. So like I mentioned, heavy hands-on night. We're going to fly through these 8 different chart types in a very short amount of time. Already mentioned we're going to use the ones we covered last week a lot, but I do think that being able to say, hey, I can build a tree map, or I can use a Gantt chart, is going to be kind of what sets you apart as, okay, these people actually taken a class and know what Tableau is, didn't just like pull up Tableau and hit show me and have something pop up. This takes some skill to build these out, so I think it's good to cover in a setting like this, and it's just going to give you an overall more comprehensive understanding of data visualization. So for the lesson portion tonight, I did want to call out, last week we talked about the data ink ratio and chart junk and things like that. Tonight on the UX side, I actually have a link I'm going to go to in a bit, but kind of the main topic or lesson for tonight's lesson will be Jacob's Law, which is users spend most of their time on other sites. This means that users prefer your site to work the same way as all the other sites they already know. This was honestly a really, really hard one for me to swallow, because I learned Tableau and I felt like a fancy data scientist. And I'm like, I can build really cool stuff that no one has ever seen before. And then you toss something up that no one has ever seen before, and you spend the first 10 minutes explaining what it is and how it works, and not the point that you're trying to make. So users will transfer expectations they have built around one familiar product to another that appears similar. It's the same thing you see with like Apple stuff, like the same way you pull up your Apple phone, same way you pull on your Mac laptop or an iPad or Apple TV or anything like that, because they know you're used to using one thing and they don't want to teach you another thing. The same thing goes for data viz. So a lot of times simpler is better. And we're going to cover some stuff tonight that is definitely not simple. So I want to make sure that we're staying grounded, is that this is for the expectation and the experience of learning how to do it, not saying these are the charts that you should make all the time. By leveraging existing mental models, we can create superior user experiences in which users can focus on their tasks rather than learning new models. So a lot of this is, when I pull up this lawsofux.com page, is built really around web design and apps and things like that, making sure that people have a really simple user experience to click around through. But the same thing can get transferred over to data viz, except instead of focusing on a task of clicking through a website, the task is understanding what the data that you're trying to show is. And lastly, when making changes, minimize discord by empowering users to continue a familiar version for a limited time. So you're really just trying to shorten what they call the time to value. How long does it take to look at something and instantly get what you're trying to get out of it? So just for the sake of the class, I am going to pull this up. We're not going to cover them all, but it is a really, really interesting page. So here's Jacob's Law. This is where I pulled everything down from. They have some cool examples and stuff like that, some origins and some additional reading material. But if you go back to all, this is literally called Laws of UX, which is userexperience.com. So collection of best practices that designers can consider when building their user interfaces. So Melinda, maybe you can come up here and teach us about some of these other things. In web design, because I do think that they are really beneficial and can be used for data viz as well. And they're just neat and interesting to learn about, because you think, oh yeah. And once you read them, you'll like start noticing other places too. You'll pull up a website, you'll be like, oh, that's Parkinson's Law right there, which is cool. If you don't love going around and clicking into like a website and reading on your own, I actually discovered this from the person that taught the class like 2019, before the COVID year. All the old data viz classes are published on YouTube as well. So if you like hate me but still want to learn, you can go back and just like watch all the other ones. But I was watching him when I was first developing my curriculum. And when they got to this night, he actually clicked through every single one of those laws of UX. He was a former web designer that transferred into actually user research, but it involved data science as well too. And I'm like, wow, this is awesome. And I learned a ton. So I don't have that experience, so I didn't feel comfortable teaching you guys about the laws of UX other than Jacob's Law. But if that is something you're interested in, if you don't want to click around on a website, watch his YouTube video. It's really, really good. All right, so text tables. We're going to cover, and I'm going to go really quick because I think that we learn better hands-on. But this is something that everyone is really familiar with, and unfortunately, probably the data viz that I make the most, because you build a chart and then you show it to the CEO. He's like, why doesn't this look like my Excel? I'm like, okay, well, I can make it look like your Excel. So pros, this format everyone is familiar with. You can easily see the details. You don't have to hover and click around, anything like that. The cons, you can really only show one measure in one dimension at a time. It's really difficult to spot trends. Everything just kind of like blurs together. The negatives obviously pop out because they have the parentheses around them. So you can't easily look at it and say, hey, here's the biggest profit, which region, which department, things like that. So how do you account for that? And remember the logical progression that I was talking about. You can toss a filter on. So pros, it's still really familiar. People are used to seeing this. You can see the details without having to hover. And now you can easily spot trends. So you can really quickly, like the first thing that jumps out to me is table profits in the East region are abysmal, the worst across any category in any region up there. Copiers in the West are absolutely popping off, 19,000 in profit just from that. In fact, copiers are pretty solid across the board, really down in the South for some reason. So you can really easily spot these trends. But again, we're just really looking at profits here. We don't have a good understanding of, well, what are the total sales? Are the profit margins good? How are they trending over time? Some different things like that. So progression, how do you start? Actually, the next progression is this one. How do you account for that? Well, here's a dual axis. So what a dual axis is, and now again, the fact that I'm having to explain what a dual axis is means I'm probably breaking Jacob's law. But what I'm showing here in gray is the total sales by these different categories: furniture, office supplies, technology, by these different subcategories. So we have our books, chairs, furniture, things like that. So you can really easily see the different profits, which ones are the most profitable. And then you add in another line on top of it, which I colored. Whoops, sales is the gray, profits is the green. I colored it green so you can tell. Now you can see where the profits are. So pros, you can easily show multiple measures and dimensions. You can easily spot trends. It's a format people are somewhat familiar working with, right? It's just a bar chart and a line chart on top of each other. But now we've lost some of that visibility that we had in the tables of being able to see, okay, this is exactly $11,000. It's exactly -5. Now we can just kind of see relative is about $50,000. It's about -10. So there's kind of some give and take. So those are the three I use a lot. The one let me stop. Any questions on those three specifically? Okay. The one I kind of brushed over is what we call a heat map. So you guys are probably typically used to seeing heat maps on like a map, right? Your different states are colored different shades. You can use something similar in kind of this table format as well too. This is like a fun one to make, and you feel like they should go hang it up in like the Joslin Art Museum as like an abstract art piece. But it uses two different dimensions here, sales and profits, where profits are the color of the square and sales are the size of the square. So you can see you look for really, really big squares. Chairs in the east are really big, so you know that there's a lot of sales coming from that. It's not that dark and blue though, so there's not a whole lot of profit. You can see copiers in central is a really dark blue, it's really profitable, not a lot of sales. And then obviously the really minuscule squares you can see are kind of low in both of those categories. So this is one that pros, you can show multiple measures and dimensions. You can easily spot trends in big squares and big colors. Definitely not a format people are familiar with, and you've lost that visibility into the detail into what those numbers actually, or what the squares and colors actually represent from a numbers standpoint. Tree maps. This is another kind of fun one to build, not a great one to use. This is essentially, think of a pie chart, but in square form. So you have all the parts of the whole make up the entire square, and then the biggest parts that relate to, in this case, the most profits, represent the size of the square. So you can see that copiers make up most of our profits, and it kind of goes around in a spiral type staircase as opposed to a pie chart, which is just sections of the pie. So you can show large amounts of items in a single visualization. You can kind of approximate parts of the whole, which we talked about in pie charts. So about 1/3 of our sales come from copiers, phones, and accessories. I don't know for sure. The cons, color and size, and the label, we're kind of showing the same exact thing. Like think of the data ink ratio. We have the labels on there, so we really need the size. And the size and the color are also showing the same thing, so we really need either one of those. The other really tricky thing is negative numbers. You can't necessarily, so like tables here, total profits are negative $18,000. Well, a negative number should technically take away sections of the whole, right? Because it goes backwards. So this one gets a little confusing. Again, there are specific ad hoc use cases where you may want to use these. And someday, 5 years from now, you're going to build a tree map and be like, oh, I'm so glad I learned how to do this. But definitely not something that you're going to use very specifically. Gantt bar. So this is actually a really helpful chart type if you know when to use it. The cons is when you use it is incredibly limited. So I actually first got exposed to a Gantt bar chart inside of Builder Trends platform. So the company I work for, the application that we build and sell is project management and scheduling software. So we have an embedded Gantt bar chart, which is based off of the schedule of building a house. So this is just a demo example right here. But you can see when like the first floor framing is going to start, the second floor framing, when you need to frame the roof. And you can see the duration that each of those are going to last, when they're going to stop, and when the next thing's going to kick off. So if you asked how to build a house, you can show the exact steps, exactly when everything's gonna be done, and how they all kind of relate to each other. So the one and kind of only use case of a Gantt bar chart is if you're gonna be like a project manager and wanna show how projects are moving along, when they can expect to see stuff done, things of that nature. Other than that, they're not super useful. But I was able to build out an example using the Superstore data, which is kind of cool. Here's all the different order dates and the order IDs, and just when they're gonna be shipped and when they'll be delivered. So the length of each bar on here is how long it takes to deliver. It's colored by what sort of shipping mode that they have. So you can see the first class bars are in blue. Those get delivered really quickly. The standard class, which is the majority of them, are kind of this teal color, which are a little bit longer on average. But those are Gantt bars. And lastly, everyone's favorite pie chart. So we actually got a little ahead of ourselves last week and had the pie chart debate on if it's good or not. If you ever need some good reading, just Google are pie charts good or bad? And there's a million articles talking about pie charts are the worst. Business Insider. But I think they sometimes get an unfair rap. So I do have a couple examples of #justice for pie charts. Does anyone watch How I Met Your Mother?
Yeah.
Okay, so Marshall has this it's a whole episode where he gets really into, I think it's like a printing machine, and he just loves printing different things out, and he gets really into it. So he makes a pie chart describing his favorite bars and a bar chart describing his favorite pies, which I've never related to a character more in my life, because that's absolutely something I would do. So they do have advantages, and we're gonna cover a few of those. Knowing what your data looks like and what you're trying to show makes a big difference. You don't want to just blatantly or irresponsibility toss one together. Rules of thumb, but really a case-by-case basis. So why not to use a pie chart? It's a really, really limited display of diversity. So they're not very effective in displaying categorical data where the number of categories exceed 3 or 5. So that's kind of a good rule of thumb. Like here we have 20 different subcategories, and they all kind of blend together. You can notice a couple, like I have no idea which one is bigger between these 4. I know that these are kind of small. So a few too many dimensions on here really kind of blurs the lines into what you're trying to show, and very limited precision. So you're trying to show parts of the whole. If you want to toss the labels on there, then you start getting rid of the data-ink ratio. So you really can't tell at a glance, at least, what these things are trying to show and what they're trying to represent. And last kind of example of why not to use one, a ton of ambiguity between size and orientation. Specific ordering in respect to the slices are open for different interpretations. Additional accents such as 3D or tilting. This is like, unfortunately, the most common way people show pie charts. They make them 3D and like spinning, and if they're not hard enough to understand as is. So you're really trying to simplify things as much as possible. But justice for pie charts. Why to use pie charts? If you want your audience to have a general sense of the parts of a whole relationship, and comparing the precise pieces are less important, pie charts are great. And if you want to convey that one segment of the total is relatively small or large, they're really good for that. So for example, if you want your audience to have a general sense of parts of the whole in your data, and comparing precise sizes of the slices is less important, a pie chart here is perfect. If I was trying to I had 2 examples, and I was trying to show that 25% of all of our sales came from one category, this is really easy to look at and say that is 25%. That's a quarter of the whole. I know what that looks like. On a bar chart here, this is actually 75%, 25%. It's really hard to tell that because they're side by side and not parts of the whole. So that looks like a third of that one, but you don't really easily get that as a quarter of the whole. So in that specific example, a pie chart would be really good. And if you want to convey that one segment of the total is relatively small or large. So if I was trying to show that we should stop selling chairs because chairs make up a really small portion of our sales, I can highlight the chairs category, gray everything out, and say, hey, this is all of our total sales. This is all that comes from chairs, or vice versa. If I was trying to show tables or something is really big, You say, hey, look, about a third or almost half of our, about a third, almost half. If it really doesn't matter precision wise, pie charts are really good at showing this slice is large. So using those two things, what are the specific one using our superstore data? What can you easily tell from this chart?
Furniture sales are low.
Furniture sales are really small. That's one thing you can grab from this for sure.
Technology's half the sales.
Technology is about half, exactly. So that's a really good example why I'd use pie charts, is if I wanted to show technology is about half, furniture is really small, you can easily grab that from pie charts. All of our profits come from 3 categories, is the only one that I didn't say. And then here's just another example. I think we've covered this pretty well. I would never show something in the top left. It's too hard to understand. The data ink ratio is awful. But if you put it in a bar chart, it's also not really super easy to understand. There's a lot going on. So depending on what you're trying to show, you can go back and forth between those two. In the top right there, you could highlight 4 of them and say over half of our sales come from these 4 categories. So don't hate pie charts. They do have some useful use cases. Donut charts, I love donut charts for 2 reasons. One, I think they're fun, and Tableau doesn't make them by default. So every time you get to use a donut chart instead of a pie chart, people think that you're special because you figured it out. So I love that, and it's fun to say donut chart. And then 2, classic data ink ratio. You can eliminate half the data in there, clean it up a little bit, and all the other stuff still functions exactly the same as the pie chart. Okay, 8 different chart types. That's what we're gonna crank out tonight. Any questions on any of these that I covered? Or if you guys are ready, we'll jump right in. Cool, we got a lot. So, similar to last week, we'll do most of this getting hands-on experience. Basically what we're gonna do is just build these out one by one. So everyone, and we're at 6:40 right now, so let's go ahead and crank out the first couple, get to 7, then we'll take our first break. Just since we have so much to cover. Everyone go ahead and open up your Tableau Public. Connect to your file, wherever you got SuperSource saved. Open that up. And we're, once again, just gonna be working with orders. Go sheet 1, we're ready to go. I'm gonna pull this back over for me, just so I can go down the list here. All right, so step 1 is a simple text table. I do a better job of labeling these as I go. This one's really, really easy to make. Let's go ahead, so I'm following the examples, and drag region onto our columns. And let's drag subcategory onto our rows. And then all we need to do to make this a text table is bring sales over and toss it on the text. So simple, easy, similar to last week. We'll start with kind of the bad example and then how to make it good. Because there are a lot of learnings in tonight outside of just how to make these charts. So something we haven't covered before is kind of what's called default properties of these measures. So sales, I think actually is supposed to be, again, I didn't make the data set, but I think it's supposed to be a dollar amount, not a count. We've never messed with this before, so we've always just showed the high level count here. But if you go over to sales and hit this little down arrow right here, and click on default properties, and then the little arrow here, number format, you should get this little pop-up here. And again, if you missed that, just click arrow, default properties, number format. And we're gonna change this to, go ahead and click on currency custom. So by default, this is gonna show a currency now. Don't click OK yet, I wanna show you what it looks like. So now we have our dollar amounts, we have our cents in there as well too. I think it's a little ugly. I think it's showing a bit too much. So we are gonna go back in there and let's take the decimal spots down to 0. And then if you wanted to change the display units, let's go ahead and click on thousands. Now when we hit OK, it's gonna round everything to the nearest 1,000, have the dollar signs in there, have the K to denote that we're working in thousands of dollars. And now we have a more accurate table showing our sales by region. Another thing, everyone get that okay? Another thing that I'm going to do here to make this a little cleaner is we had talked about white space in the past. I actually don't think that we need, you see on my screen here, you can't really, but on your screens in front of you, you can probably see how it alternates between a white row, a gray row, white row, gray row. We're gonna go and get rid of those. So if we right click anywhere in here and go to format, and then click on this little shading, the middle one at the top there, where it says row banding, and then pane, go and click none. And then now you can see that it's got rid of the rows in the pane, but it doesn't get rid of the rows in the header, which is where the subcategory is. So then go ahead and click none there too. And now we have a nice, crisp, clean text table that uses the white space as the divider between there, and also improves our data a little bit. Everyone get that okay? Then maybe the last thing I would do here, if you guys haven't figured out yet, see how subcategories is cut off. You can just kind of hover over where that column is and drag that out. And then it's a little bit cleaner here. Okay, maybe last thing that we learned about last week, let's go ahead and hide where it says region. So we know right click hide. We'll just call this sales by region or something like that. Cool, so far so good. As always, I know I say this every night, but anyone watching remotely, if you have any questions, just blurt it out. I do have my screen up beside me, so you'll get my attention quicker. Just talk over the giant owl staring me right in the face. Yes?
When you're getting rid of the banding and those things, is there a rule of thumb on how many columns or anything like that? Is there a point where it becomes inaccessible to read across without some of those guidelines?
Yes, absolutely. I don't have any examples or anything, but it's one of those things that kind of, when you know, especially like you said, once you start getting more columns in there, even if like the rows are a little more jam-packed and you can't just kind of use the organic white space to differentiate between the two, like hard to make this smaller. Say I had like 100 different subcategories or something, then things kind of start to blend together. Something like this may actually make more sense to toss on some of those, maybe a lighter gray row bandings to see how they go across. Like that's definitely easier to read than it was before. Or if you have enough space to make it work, you can just drag those down and use some of that organic white space, folks. But no, really good question. Okay, let's keep this one. Let's go ahead and duplicate this tab. And the next step, kind of the logical progression that I talked about, will be a highlight table. So we can really easily see the detail. We don't have to hover over it, but if we want to spot trends a little bit quicker, let's take sales again over from our left dimensions measures pane and just drag that onto color. Now, if we want this to be coloring the background instead of the text, this is a great example of when you can use the show me. Because I actually don't know how to do that off the top of my head. I always just do this. And in the very top right, see where it says highlight table, if you click that, one, it messed up our formatting, but now it's coloring the background instead of the text. So who knows a really easy way to get this back to the way we had it? We learned it like night one. Swap them. Yep, this little button right here, swap rows and columns. Boom, we're right back to where we were. Now, if you, again, I've talked about this before, Tableau default, I always just kind of assumed they knew what they were doing when they built this out. That's why they picked this default color. But sometimes what I like to do, if you go to edit colors, people are really used to seeing like red is green, or red is bad, green is good. So you can scroll down, there's like a temperature diverging option here. Right now you can see that green is the lowest, red is the highest, which is not the way I wanted it. So you can click the reverse option here. And now we have a different chart where the bigger ones are green, the smaller ones are red. Or if you just like really like the color purple, switch over to that. So there's a few different options to mess around with, but really easy to change by simply going here and doing that. So drag this back over. Just for my own sake, we're going to rename this. And there's a highlight table. Any questions on those? Cool, we're flying. Next one, go ahead and duplicate. Let's keep all the old ones. Let's turn this into a heat map. So again, I think let's get rid of the color. And then let's go profit onto size right here. And then let's drag sales onto color. And then let's go ahead and go, just to make this a little bigger instead of standard, you can go up here and go to the entire view. And it fills this out like this. So again, sales onto color, profit onto size. We still have our region, our subcategory. And now the profit, you can see over here in the legend, is the total size. So these really small ones like tables, you can see negative $11,000 in profit. The really dark blue ones are sales. So go over that, like chairs in the east, $96,000 in total sales. But I want it on the record, since this is going on YouTube, I do not like this chart at all. I don't know why you would ever use it, but you can build it. You have the tools, you have the technology. Let me go ahead and rename this one. Everyone get this okay? I know we're going quick because we're gonna have to build these all again using a different data set. Sales by region, actually, sales and profit.
Could you make each of the shapes overall bigger? Did all of the other person get bigger to fill the cell more?
Yes, great question. So if I go and click into size here, it defaults kind of right in the middle here. If I were to drag this to like halfway, they all get bigger. No, it's a really good question.
In your example earlier, you had profit highlighted green for something.
Yeah.
How did you do that?
Yeah. So I think actually in my example, I had profit as the color, sales as the size, because profit can go from a negative number to a positive number, whereas sales is all just positive. So that's actually a really good call out. If I was actually building this chart and wanting to show it, this is probably the better way to do it so that they're not all just blue. Because then you start to see some of the things that we talked about with the example where like this really deep orange kind of sticks out, being really unprofitable. And these really big ones really stick out from having a ton of sales. All right, last one / my favorite one for the break will be the dual axis. For this one, let's go ahead and start a brand new sheet. Let's bring category onto columns. And then let's bring subcategory right beside it, also onto columns. And then let's bring sales to start with onto rows. Here's a nice easy bar chart that we're used to seeing. But now if we bring profit also onto rows, something weird happens. And I actually think someone had it, this maybe in you, Rashendo, you had something very similar to this in your example, where you have two different axes. Here you have sales, here you have profit. They still have the same columns. So office supplies are here, art's here. They go the same way. But if we wanted to combine this and do a dual axis chart, it's actually really simple. Let's right click. Is everyone here so far? Right click on the profit and then just hit dual axis. So now it pops up, another really Jocelyn Art Museum abstract art. I don't know why it does this by default, but it makes them all, I don't even know what you call this, a shape chart or something. It's showing what you'd expect it to show, where furniture right here, negative 3,000 profit right below this line, sales up here, 115, but kind of hard to read. So notice in our marks tab now, we've never had this before, where now we have three different kind of subsections that we can click through. We have an all, we have sales, and we have profit. So you can adjust the color, the size, the label, all three independently now. So let's go into sales first of all and change this from automatic to a bar. Now we have our bar as we would expect. And then let's go into profit. And again, change it from automatic to a line. So now we're getting close. We're gonna have to change the color because this is really bright and annoying. But sales, you can see, is colored in orange. So you can see sales right here. You can see exactly where everything is. Profit is colored in blue. It's on the line chart here. It's on top of the bar, so you can easily see it. So now we're showing two different dimensions on one chart in a way that's familiar for everyone to see. The only thing I don't like about this now is by default, Tableau will have independent axes. So you can see profit is going from 0 to 50,000. Sales is going from negative 100,000 to 300,000. So when you're looking at this, the profit and the sales kind of look like they're the same height, which is confusing. You're having to look at two different spots to see which one means which thing. To account for that, we can right click on the profit and hit synchronize axes. Now, both of them go from 0 to 300K. 0 to 300K. You can tell that we have to do a ton of sales to accompany for the same amount of profit, very minimal profit, which makes sense. But now we're running into some data ink ratio issues where we're showing the same thing, two different spots. So let's just go ahead and remove this one altogether. So to do that, just like we normally would, right click and hit show header. And that gets rid of that. Now we have one chart, one axis, two different dimensions on it, which is really cool. At least I think so. Let's go and do some typical bar chart cleanup just for reps, and you guys can get used to where this is all at. So let's go format. Let's get rid of those grid lines. So again, over on the far right, lines, rows, grid lines, none. I actually like having these grid lines on the columns because it easily separates. Here are just the 4 furniture things. Here are the office supplies things. Here are the technology things. The only thing I would maybe change is making this a little bigger, entire view, so we can get rid of, still some of these are kind of cut off, but you can see more of the axis labels. And again, if we were to go full size and it has more room, it'll show all of them there. Everyone get here so far? I know there's a lot of steps to build this one out. Okay, now a trick I used in my example, let's go ahead and go back up to all. You can see now in the color that is using this field called measure names. This is something that by default, any data set that you bring in, Tableau will give you these two categories, measure names and measure values. So now you're not coloring it by a specific measure or a specific dimension, but you're actually coloring it by the measure names, which is why it's saying this is profit, this is sales. We're gonna go ahead and click into color, edit colors, and let's go ahead and make profit a nicer calmer gray. You guys can choose whatever color you want. And sales, actually sales is what we want gray. Let's go profit green for money. Hit okay. And you can see now it updates both of those. And then the trick I use in my example that I use in a lot of dual axis stuff to get rid of some of the redundancies of having to look at what colors mean which things over in the key is I'm going to go ahead and rename this and call it sales versus profits. Category. Category. I have it renamed here. This is something that we haven't covered before. You can actually go in and edit the format of the title by double clicking in there. And see how right now it's just titled what the sheet name is. It's a similar format that we used when we were doing tooltips. You can add in your different things, and if it's wrapped in brackets, it's just gonna be the name of the sheet. We're actually gonna overwrite this for the first time and just go ahead and type in sales versus profits by category. And why would we do this is now we can actually update individual words. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna take profits here, highlight it, I'm gonna change just profits to be green and bold, see that? So now we apply, and the label of our chart, again, taking advantage of the label can really help just people instantly being able to look at this and know what they're looking at. Now that I'm showing profits in green here, you can easily see, okay, sales is gonna be in gray, profits is gonna be in green. So I can take over to my measure names and click hide card. And now it's nice and clean. We get rid of categories of subcategory, we already talked through that. And now all my access labels are showing too, which is nice. All right, questions on the dual axis? There has to be at least a couple. I went through really fast. None? All right, let's take a 10-minute break. It's 7 o'clock right now. It's actually 7:01, so let's take a 9-minute break. We'll be back at 7:10. And when we come back, we will crank through these last 3 or 4, which actually will go pretty quick. And then we'll get into the hands-on portion of the night to let you guys try out some of these for yourselves. So be back in 9 minutes.
Like, you don't see them getting
Yep.
superstore right on this laptop. So, I just want to do this one. And when I logged into Tableau, I opened this one. But let's see what
Yep.
this is.
Yeah.
So. We got it, so.
Right.
You know, and down my gallery, you're gonna.
Oh, yeah.
Because that
Yeah.
seems to be terribly well.
Right.
Last doesn't. Okay,
Yeah.
other guy, you know, who wants to different data.
Yeah.
Like that, so, what's the best thing, just totally get out of it and log it back in?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I'm curious what I want to know, what is it? So, what I do, then do it. it's not connected to anything,
Yeah.
right? To data.
So there's
And then see, I had this sales superstore, which was 3 months. We're good. I mean, that's what we want, that moment, the day we had class.
Yep. Just drag orders over here. Now you should be able to go to dash one. Yep.
Okay, so it's just dragging it over, so now, okay.
Yeah, when you open up the Excel, those three, these are essentially 3 different tabs inside of your Excel, so you have to understand and look at. So you'll actually have something similar to this over here.
Okay.
So what you can do, and we haven't heard this yet, but when it comes time to like doing these up, if you bring for a second one. Mhm.
And that's why I would handle those two.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So that's what they're- okay. And I know I'm.
Oh, yeah. Right. We'll have some time this second session then.
And we're, sooner I say that, because that's the other thing. Or is this small segment, just, this is my balance.
Mhm.
Is that? System.
Yeah, so using, right,
This is so funny.
Yeah.
It's actually terrifying, but,
yeah,
well,
right, yeah,
so, just take a look at that, it's over now.
yeah,
But yeah, this is okay then, to have the 3 times as nice to you.
yeah, just that was yeah, mhm, yeah, absolutely, yeah, Yeah.
That's what we're.
Yeah. No, that's a perfect example, yeah, yeah, that'd be great.
And I can do the, use this guy.
Yeah, you could just, right, yeah, we can pull up, what we do for that is just like entering, like create our own Excel. Like, this is the start date, this is the end date, this is the duration, this is if we need to have a job description, post the job description, we'll just build it out ourselves and we'll carry it over and create it.
Okay,
Yeah, let's do that when we get the hands-on section.
okay, excellent, I'll get some things figured out, contact too, thanks.
Oh. Oh, no, I got doing a little bit of work. But yeah, but I also have like my staff over here and stuff, so. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I try to like not put other stuff because I get distracted really easily. Like, oh wait, I thought of something. I'm like, no. I'm just like literally doing my head doing. So yeah, no, I just like downloaded one of the data sets from that new link he sent, so I just kind of have that to play with later. But no, I just had this up because I was working out something earlier and it's really the honesty answer of it. Yeah, it's nice to be able to, because clicking back and forth, I get very frustrated sometimes. So yeah, sometimes it's really helpful.
All right. Let's jump back in to these last four. So let's go ahead and create a new tab. Let's bring subcategory onto our columns. Let's go profits. I think it's the example I use. Actually, let's go sales onto the rows. And then again, we're gonna go over to show me and highlight this nice little tree map. And notice like some of these are highlighted, some of them are kind of grayed out. If you hover over the ones that are grayed out, it'll tell you like the dimensions that you need. So for this one, it says you need one date, 0 or more dimensions, 1 or more measures. So we can't build that because we don't have a date on here, but we can build a tree map. So we're going to click that. And here is our phones, chairs, storage, all the different subcategories that make up our total sales. The colors are colors and sizes based on the total sales volume. So what I don't like a lot of things about this, but the main thing I don't like about it is you can't tell exactly how much each of these are. So that can be solved really easily with just bringing sales over to the labels. If you didn't like the fact that the color and the size are both kind of saying the same thing, you could remove the color. And now, I guess technically you're improving some of the data ink ratio. But then I think it gets a little too bland. Again, I'm just kind of showing you some options. So handy dandy undo, keep it this way. But this one's pretty straightforward, pretty easy to build. And we probably just title this one sales by subcategory. Any questions on this one? Cool. All right, one that I do like, the Gantt. So this one's going to take a few different steps. Just FYI, strap in. We're going to learn. We're going to use calculated fields for the first time. I can't remember. Was that you? I was working with calculated fields on last week. So to build this out, order date. Let's go and take order date first of all, drag it onto our rows. And then again, we're going to change this from a year. Let's go the day, and again, not the first day that just says 8, the second day that says May 8th, 2015. And now you actually can't tell, but there's a ton of different rows with a ton of different dates in here. Now we're going to create a, try to remember how I did this. Okay, now let's filter down so we don't have quite as many on here. So let's take order date, drag it onto filters. Let's choose month/year. And let's just choose December 2017. Now we have a lot more manageable December 2017. Here's all of our different order dates. Now we're going to take order date again, drag it onto column, and again, change that from year. This time we are actually going to choose the first day, so where it just says 8 here.
What was the filter condition that you said?
I just did where the order date, the month year of the order date is December 2017.
Oh, okay.
So now we're starting to resemble something like a Gantt chart, where we have on the y-axis here, essentially December 1st to December 29th. And then on the x-axis here, we have December 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. So it makes sense that it's all kind of logically going this way because this is December 6th, 6th the day of the month, December 7th, 7th day of the month, so on and so forth. Now, what we want to show is how long each one of these orders takes. So we are going to create a calculated field, which is a brand new thing. It's very fun, and I think the main topic of our next class. But we're going to click this little arrow right here and choose Create Calculated Field. Now, what this is going to allow us to do is think, I always think it's better to speak in terms of Excel because that's what people are used to working with. If you have a whole bunch of data with a whole bunch of columns and you are going to create a new column, you hit like equals, column Y plus column B, and then it spits out a brand new column using your other two columns. That's essentially what a calculated field does. So it allows you to use the data that you have to create new data. And there are a ton of different, if you click this little arrow here, there's a ton of different functions that you can use. Luckily, they're all very, very similar to the same functions you would use in Excel. Also, luckily, this is not an Excel class nor a coding class, so we're not going to go through all of them. But I am going to show you the functionality of them, because a lot of times you think, man, I just have this data, if only I could change it into this. You can do that right in Tableau and don't have to worry about messing with the source data, which is really nice. So for this specific example, we are going to do something called a date diff. So just type in date, it should pop up, or you type in date diff. Has anyone ever used a date diff before in Excel? Essentially, all it's gonna do is it's gonna spit out how the duration or the difference between two dates. So the nice thing is when you type this in, it pops up with this little pop-up and it tells you all the parameters or inputs or what you need to put between the two parentheses. So the first is a date part. So I want to show that the date part just means minutes, hours, days, months, years, which part of the date do we want to show. So I want to show the total number of days that this is going to take. So I'm going to put a parenthesis, just a single parenthesis, type in day, another parenthesis, and then comma. You can see now that the like bolded part in our little helper underneath has gone from date part to start date. So we have our date part, we're gonna show the number of days. Now we're gonna type in our start date. And for that, it's going to be the order date. And so you see it has a nice autocomplete feature. Go and hit tab or whatever, we have order date, and then we type in another comma, then the bold and the little helper, and I love the little helpers, goes to end date. So we have our date part, we have our order date. So the end date is gonna say, we wanna know the number of days between our order date and our ship date. We're gonna type that in. Hopefully you type that in the bottom right, it should say the calculation is valid. Anything in your little helper that's in square brackets are optional parameters. We're not gonna mess with them this class. Nate ever spins up a Tableau 202 class, we'll talk here and there. But this is just gonna give us the number of days between our order date and our ship date. So we'll just call this days to ship or something like that. Now when we hit OK, we have a brand new measure that we haven't had before. So if any of you are tired of messing around with sales and profits and stuff, we now have days to ship. And we're gonna take that and drag it onto our size. All right.
To the formula one more time?
Yep, absolutely. So we right click on that little arrow and then we just hit edit. We'll bring this back up.
Oh, you just closed it off. Okay, thank you.
Yep. All right, we're getting close. I think, and I don't have my example beside me here, so I'm kind of flying by the seat of my pants, but I think we actually need to change this. Let me double check first before you guys do it. We don't have a Gantt, does it show me? Okay, give me 1 second. Okay. Let me get back to where I was. Okay, so we're right here. We are not going to drag this onto size. We're going to drag this onto columns. Rows, actually. And then we're going to right click on this green one. Right now it's a continuous date. We're going to change that to be discrete. Sorry, I'm really struggling here. We're getting there. Sorry. Go back to where I was. That's discrete. This is going to come on to columns. Let's actually go in and just select how do I want to do this? Let's change this one. Let's go and get rid of order date. Bring it back on there. And let's just do month, day, year. And let's just select just so we don't have quite as much data on there, 5 or 6 dates towards the bottom here. And okay. And then the very last thing we're gonna do is go to automatic. Okay, we're in there. Automatic, change the Gantt bar. As soon as I get this, we're gonna start a new tab and do it again. And then days to ship on the size. Okay. Let's go ahead. Apologies. Now, the lesson I've learned now is next time I need to have more notes in my PowerPoint so I don't embarrass myself like that again. Let's go ahead and start a brand new tab. Let's do this really quick from the start. So, order date onto columns, change to the day where it says May 8th, 2015. Always under rows.
Change it to May 8th, 2015.
Yep. And then click on it again and go discrete. And then order date on the columns again. Here we're just going to change to where it just says the day 8. And then here's a little tip if you ever want to filter stuff real fast. Just click here, and then if you hold down shift and click again, it'll pop up this little option, keep only exclude. We're just gonna hit click keep only. That just allows us to filter a little quicker. Right, then we're gonna go days to ship up on the columns. We're gonna change automatic to Gantt bar. And days to ship on the size. All right, then the very last thing that will make this look a little prettier is go ahead and bring order ID onto rows as well, right beside the order date. Okay, so now let's talk about what we're showing here. On the far left, here's our order date. So everything that got ordered on January 6th, 2014, there was 3 orders. So let's just work our way across. In our rows, we have the order date, January 6th, and our order ID. Here's our 3 orders. If we hover over this, we can see it was shipped, or the order date was January 6th. The days to ship was only 1, which is why this is a really small thing. Here we can see January 6th, the days to ship was 2, which is why it's slightly bigger. Then here you can see the order date was January 6th. The days to ship was 28, so it's slightly larger there. This is working our way across. Now I think how I had it in the example is we brought ship mode onto color. Now you can see that this nice, using that same example, the first class one was delivered in 1 day, second class was delivered in 2 days, and the standard shipping, geez, brutal standard shipping, was delivered in 28 days. Okay, apologies for stumbling around in there, but here's a Gantt chart for you. Any questions on those? I can go through it start to finish again if that'd be beneficial. It'd be good practice for me too.
What would you want to call this?
I would call this like a order timeline. All right. Very last one here is everyone's favorite, the pie chart. Let's do something real simple. Let's go category on the columns. And let's go sales on the rows. Then all you need to do is go over to show me and hit pie chart. And voila, here's our pie chart. Let's make this look a little nicer. Let's first of all go entire view. So it centers it right in the middle, makes it a little bigger. And then let's put some labels on here so it's a little easier to read. So let's go category on the label. Boom, now we have our furniture, office supplies, and our technology. And then let's also bring sales onto our label as well too. So I would use this if I wanted to show, hey, our sales are about even across our 3 categories. This is all this really tells me is it's close to equal thirds. With the label on there, you can see, oh, technology is actually slightly bigger. And then another neat trick in Tableau is if I wanted to color these to match the same colors here, when you click into label, and then in the font, there's actually, you see right now it's on automatic. I typically go match mark color and maybe make it bold so it pops a little bit. And then everything just kind of jives a little bit better between technology, furniture, and office supplies. Then of course you can hide these, we don't need them anymore. Just hit the arrow, hit hide card. And then I'd probably rename this. Sales by category.
So if we wanted to show percentages of the numbers, would we just create a calculated field?
Great question. No. So by default, Tableau actually has, and again, this is week like 6 maybe, we'll cover these, but they have these things called quick table calcs. So if you right click onto, let's go right where the label says sales, quick table calc, you can actually choose percentage of total. And it will then pop in, this is 36%, this is 32%, this is 31%. Now, I don't think we ever need that many decimal spots. So let's click into that again and do format. The same one that we just did, now format. And then by default, it'll bring this up. Click numbers, click percentage, and then let's go and take those decimal spots to 0. Now, the only thing I don't love about this is we're showing the percentage, which is good. We lost some visibility into the total sales amount, unless you hover over it. But you can show multiple labels at once. So if I bring sales and I drag it back on the label again, it now shows 36%, $836,000. And just like how we updated the tooltip last time, you can actually update the label as well. So if you click into that, hit these 3 dots, it's showing sum of sales, category, total sales. Let's go and make this a little bit cleaner. Just command cut category just to paste it. Here we go, category. If you ever lose these, like I cut it because I knew I was going to do this. But if you go to this insert section here, it will give you all your fields that you have on your chart. You can just click into one again and it pops right in there.
Where's this edit label?
Yeah. So just click on the label
Oh,
and then hit the 3 dot.
oh.
And then we're just gonna say, let's type a little story like we did last time. Blank category is blank percent sales. And maybe underneath we put parentheses, total. And then we can just go insert category. So the category makes, here's our percentage. Percent sales. Total, something like that. I'll come back to this in a second, but just to show you what it looks like. Now you have really descriptive labels that show technology category makes up 36% sales. I would probably put this in like a tooltip as opposed to the label, but just wanted to show you guys that you can mess around with the label the same exact way that you mess around with the tooltip, right? Like if we were to click into tooltip like we did last week, very, very similar UI here for messing around with those kinds of things.
Cool.
Cool. Let's go ahead and keep grinding here. I am going to create a dashboard just so I can show a few different things at once. For our homework or assignment section of tonight, I think let's just build the normal table. Let's go with the highlight table. Let's go with the dual axis. And then a real simple pie chart. Let's put these all in one view so we can reference them. If you ever get to, I'm going to remove these labels because I hate them. If you ever want to just like go back to what it originally was, if you click into the edit label, just like this, you can hit reset, and it'll go back to just the default label calculations.
Ooh, can you show me that one more time?
Label, redot, and then reset.
Oh, cool. How do you? So, and it might just be on my laptop, but like, it's kind of squished into like one asset. Is that just because I'm on the laptop?
No, that's actually a good question. Let me show you guys how I'd actually build this dashboard. I kind of just tossed it up here. But I do think it's important to walk through. This dashboard kind of takes some getting used to. If I were to actually build this out and wanted to make it look pretty, what I would do is actually bring in a horizontal container first. And then in the horizontal container, I can go sales by region. I can exit out of that. And then if you guys remember last time, if you click into one of these and go select container, you can go distribute contents evenly. They already kind of work, but that will make sure that those are split. And then I'd bring in another horizontal container and toss it on the bottom here. Then I'd go my dual axis here, my pie chart here, and then this is like what you were showing where it's nice and squished. Again, I can go select horizontal container. Now when I go distribute contents evenly, it'll split it half and half. And then to make it bigger in general, I just changed the size. I don't know why it defaults to such a small setting, but change it from range to automatic, and it will fill up the whole chart. Then the only other thing, and I apologize because I went through this pretty quick, you have control over the size of the dashboard as a whole, but you also have control into the individual charts that make it up. So if I were to click into this thing, right here you see standard. So that just means that it's in the standard view that we built it out here, the same size. I can actually change it directly here to be the entire view. Same thing here, change it to be the entire view.
I think I missed it on the, how you made the dashboard expand?
Yeah, right over to under dashboard or size. I think it starts by on like a range.
Gotcha.
If you click into that and go automatic, it'll expand it all the way out.
Oh, cool. All
And
right.
what's nice about this is like, if I'm on a laptop, it will automatically, fit this entire view. If I'm on like a widescreen TV, it will automatically fit that. There are some times where you run into issues with that if you want things formatted and sized correctly and exactly right no matter what. Like if someone's viewing something really small, you run into issues here. But for the sake of this class, we'll probably almost always go automatic size and the entire view. All right, let me make sure we got through everything. Donut charts, I'll save if we have time at the end, just to make sure that everyone has enough time to build these out. Then we can close out with a fun little donut chart if we want. Otherwise, I know we covered a lot, which is why I wanted to save lots of time at the end. If you're feeling extra ambitious, feel free to mess around with the Gantt chart, the area chart, or the tree chart. Otherwise, let's just focus on these four for right now, because these are the four that have kind of practical applications. So if you have a data set that you're used to working with outside of the Superstore, feel free to pull that back up. If not, that link I sent in the Slack channel has a ton of, it doesn't have a ton, it has 14 exactly, other data sets that work really, really well and have a lot of different dimensions, measures, and stuff. So if you're getting frustrated with some of the data sets you've chosen in the past, feel free to choose one of these. But let's pull open a data set. Let's open a new Tableau workbook. and let's try to make these 4 views. I'll be kind of walking around and lurking as I normally do to answer any questions you have. Lurking. Anyone remote, just let me know if you have questions, and you can share your screen and I can walk you through it.
Does Tableau not recognize CSV?
It does. Just make sure when you go to the connection, instead of hitting Excel, go to text file.
Oh, text.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. Cool. All right, thank you.
Yep. If anyone has any questions, just raise your hand, I'll pop around, because I'm sure other people have the same questions, so. Or if you want me to go back to one of these tabs so you can see the rows and columns and colors and stuff, I can do that too.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. When we change the colors of the heat map, the highlighted table, did we add an extra element or was there a formatting?
Yeah, great question. Go ahead. Well, I did cheating.
Oh, you just showed me. Yeah. Filtered in.
Oh,
Just
right now
'cause-
we have. So for the heat map, we only have, that as a con of using heat map, is you can only show one
Oh,
measure.
Yeah, but it will
Um,
do it for you. Gotcha.
So if you didn't want to use the heat map to show me, what I did is change this from, so we're bringing in cases, the color. Right now it's automatic, it's coloring the text.
Mm-hmm.
What it did when we had to show me is it changed it to color the square.
Oh, okay.
But think about this the same way.
Gotcha. Okay, cool. Right on, thank you. Case.
Yeah.
So it's pretty simple.
Yeah. Yeah, so you can actually do, if you just wanted to show it up there. There's our table. What I did to make it have those two columns over is if you wanted to bring over a line. Oh, there we go. So then it gives you multiple columns or multiple rows. Sorry.
Save this, and they didn't save it as a dashboard.
Mhm.
I also kind of want to save this dashboard with the other charts.
Yeah.
So what's the best way to like save this?
That's a good question. Can you shoot me this? Let me see what I'm see it. I have a couple ideas. So I want to make sure first.
Save like my.
So were you asking where the sheets were? I just say the dashboard.
Well, I was just like, I was just trying to save it.
Yeah.
And it-
So if we go over to settings, actually. Now. Yeah. Formatting.
Yeah. Did I do it in the wrong way?
No.
I was like, I don't remember changing it.
Yeah, by default, it will publish, sometimes Tableau's too smart for its own good, and it will try to publish it. Is this like a,
We have a line. Works. It's like not lined up, so I'm bumping it up, but
yeah, so that's a great,
it didn't really work the way I had it.
yeah, so there's, no, I love it. Two things happening. One, I think since this is like a secondary monitor or something,
Oh, this
Yeah.
one is visible there.
when it published, it tried to be smart and gave a layout like specifically for the user.
Oh.
But if you go down,
The way it was.
yeah,
There.
well, that just like forces it to be like, oh, this kind of layout as well.
Well, that
Now,
looks better.
The
but
line
it's
thing,
not right up here.
yeah, oh yeah, the line thing is actually what's happening here.
What it probably should do is take this title off and make it like its own text. I should be, I should just.
Oh, I see what you're doing, yeah.
That way it's not trying to just slip in between these two
Right.
things. But then let's shift it down to, which is interesting.
Yeah, so a lot of what's happening here actually goes to, this is a really good example of why sometimes like, I will go to size here. And right now you're on a range, which will like try to fit between these two things.
Oh.
Go to base size, and then just go ahead and bump up your width. And then do this. So what this will do is no matter where you publish it, it'll keep the same exact size. So if you were to
Oh, okay.
line this out, it'll be the same on both. What was happening was this at that range, it was making your dashboard bigger or smaller, but keeping that line in the same thing, so the ratio of like where line lines are relatively changing. But I
That
agree, yeah.
makes sense.
You could also do. I like your idea of the full text box. I'm gonna go.
Yeah, I think that'll keep it from me. Yeah, I did change the data there.
Classic.
So how do I get rid of all this space in here?
Yeah, so what I would do is I would do. Change this. And then this, right, you can just like kind of manually. Yeah, to whatever size you want to do, but it doesn't fit the entire thing. Getting everything here, I saw I got a really nice dual axis last time I walked by. Heck yeah.
What is the assignment for Wednesday?
Just build out these four.
Oh, just this.
Yeah.
Looking good. I just, yeah, just figure out what colors I want.
Yeah. Yeah, this data is super hot. It's frustrating.
And then if you wanted to, go ahead and just drag this to the other side. Oops. Yeah. Sure, all the way off the other side of it. Otherwise we'll replace it. So that's it.
Okay, sorry,
I'll
sorry.
start to pick up.
Oh, right,
There we go. And then that'll put the lines on top of the bars. Which are
okay, cool.
no, I like this one.
Yeah, thanks.
Just what they need is out here.
Yes. Go to, shading. Now, paint. Go. Oh, yeah. Right.
So, way.
Yeah, this is nice little setup of this one, so.
Right. It's also.
Yeah, they need to give me a bigger monitor.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
See what they're having, they're like,
yeah,
at least I can. Good idea. So. But I can probably do this. It's not.
yeah. Let me walk around.
Yeah. Yep, I did another one, because the other one sucked me in, so here we are. I did this.
Yeah.
See if there's a way to like. Have to change it every time,
Yeah,
and like, if I were to ever. I wouldn't want it to, like,
right,
I just threw it on there, so
yeah.
I'm just like, I wonder,
Let me,
I'm kind of Googling and seeing.
yeah, if you want to keep track of this, as far as I can look up.
Oh, yeah, I'll research it, I'll just kind
No, not that I just think that this will be this way.
Cool, perfect. So go in here. actually same thing, go ahead and pull that off. Yeah. And then go ahead and show me. There you go. You do a little small. And then it changes it. Okay.
Yes.
Well, that was a relatively small section. I can tell that so easily.
How do I get these to not overlap? There's
Yeah.
a lot of room.
Yeah, oh yeah, super annoying. So the first thing you could do is click this, but I was gonna say that I was just gonna hide it. But you want to show them both. Hold on. Something you could do. Not.
There we go.
Kind of hacky, but yeah, I figured it out. So if you just want to, what's really annoying is, the order that these are in technically go top to bottom, left to right. So if you like drag these around, you can get them to be like in a slightly different order, which is what I did there. But sometimes you can mess around with those until they get in an order that doesn't
Okay.
overlap.
Awesome. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. That's, yeah, no, love it. Yeah, I do the same thing. Yeah. So, like over there. Yeah, we can do it now. Yeah. Yeah, we can do that. We can do this now or the intro now. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, sounds great. Score. Yes. Right. Right. Yeah. We are track. Yeah. 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 So are you thinking, from these grades, these are, this is here. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And then is this every, gotcha. Yeah. So this, okay. This is every class that you chose a class. This is every time they miss. So you throw them sessions. And then this is, each row here is a student. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I'll give you the story here, and then there's a ton of different things that you do, but I think there's something that easy. I can start with the show. A new one, yeah. So I'll start with just gonna show, like grades and so.
Is that kind of the direction?
Yeah, I source something, I work on source all the time.
Okay, so that's when I just.
Yeah. So like we're gonna grade in. So we're gonna do.
Oh, yeah.
That's sweet. So I remember, Jeff, somebody.
Period. And this is, period, or is this the same?
Should.
Does it have with this, the end? Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's the, so, it's good, actually.
Yeah.
So. So that's why it is that it calculates it. Basically, this is just a 0 to 4, so, you know, square. 0 to 4.
There we go. Okay. This is,
Yeah, so this is the range of the four.
and then this is how many times they, yes. So these people have, like themselves, like, student in this period. Whereas this person, they're really good with almost 45 times in this period. So you see the general cluster of people that don't list a lot. In general, kind of correlations you'd expect if you list a lot. It's kind of hard to tell you what's in color, but that would be the correlation here between. Okay, I'm gonna walk over it, but you should have enough data now to be dangerous. Yeah, yeah.
Dangerous is right.
Yeah.
So. Okay. Can't get it to show this. So when
Yeah, that's kind of good.
so when I have it with this, when I hover, it's all there. But it doesn't, I don't know.
Oh, okay. So this is not your fault. What this is showing, because you were wanting to see like this maybe across the top of that. I think actually,
Yeah, try. Try that. I tried putting them all up there, it just doesn't. Okay.
so this is not, so this is using one of those fancy measures. Since we're wanting to show, like when we were doing it with just sales, and we were breaking it up by a different dimension. Here we have, instead of what we would call it being the long way, where it would say, we had two columns, it would say F1 score, Google score, F2 score, is breaking out into columns, so F1 is a column, Google is a column, F2 is a column. So each one of these is, we're going to bring in and measure these, which are these, and measure values, which are these. Then we can kind of force it to be the way that we want it to be, but not set up not structured the same way, which is nice. So then here, like, we don't really care about. Oh, this is cool, yeah.
Which is, if this is right, but you would think 7+ would say Disney would have more points.
Right.
But actually, Prime has
Here.
some of those. That's what I think it's saying,
Yeah.
right? Yeah.
So this might be cool to look at. What we can do. So maybe so what this is going to show is instead of we'll show the basement. Also, it's different. Buttons. So then here we can see the balance. what you were saying is when we're,
Okay, and that makes more
so
sense.
Disney, it has less total counts, but 30 acres of their titles are 7 plus, whereas most prime, they have no shows that are 19. So that's sweet.
So, I mean, this looks good. So we're gonna change it, right? We're gonna do it, we're gonna stretch it. That makes sense.
Yeah. And then if you want to do some low, yeah.
So the other ones are probably gonna be difficult too, because the data's there.
Yes, but you could just, let's just do. Instead of trying to bring them all in together, you look at just this. This is actually what you're showing. It is there. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I tried it just a little differently. I wanted to just hide this because you didn't see it here, but it either, if it removes it, it takes out, like it won't leave like three line, like three titles in there. I did that, I did it. Oh.
Just do them all. Yeah. So it's showing it.
Oh, okay. So it's not really showing either, but it's even better. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So two different things.
Okay.
This is the hide field labels.
Yeah,
So that has those.
yeah.
And then this is.
Oh, that piece of that, like that text is the header.
Yeah.
That's where it gets a little confusing, so like that seems.
Right.
Okay, so figuring that out will be.
And then I actually.
The other thing I'm trying to do is just change the label for this one to shit like a order date rather than date of order date. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
couldn't get that window to the window to pop up where you just change the name. I don't know what.
So then this way it will show, so it makes a little more sense here, where it starts exactly where it should. And then it took 28 days, so it goes all the way out to.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I know.
And I hope everything's gonna switch.
Well, how did you do the calculation again?
Yes, go ahead. Oh, yeah. Go ahead and do there. And then.
Sales versus profits.
Oh, yeah.
Perfect. You're going to this option. You just have to write. And then change it to Thanks, Charlie.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. As you guys are starting to wrap up, head out, just a reminder, if you could shoot me over the Tableau public link before Wednesday, that way I can go through and make sure everything looks good and get feedback and stuff like that. So everyone can have the opportunity to receive that feedback as opposed to just the people they share. That'd be great. And then if anyone looks really good, I will pick on you and make you show it to everybody as well too. So it does not need to, Carmen just sent me a message as well. It does not need to be done tonight, but just before Wednesday, shoot the link. We'll go off that. Otherwise, thanks.
You just want it in, like where? When you get-
Just publish it to Tableau, save it up to Tableau
Just
public. And then
send you a
send me that
Slack
link.
then, or?
Yep, Slack works perfect.
And then can you get something on that?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Did you what? Oh, I know I'm saying, tell me one last time. This is as far as I've gotten for the, what's it called? Yeah.
Let's go.
We even thought like, you could go around like a years versus. It's just
Yeah, you too.
Let's go and skip that one. Relevant.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What is it? What is it measuring? Obviously, it's probably an account of
Right.
movies, because this, but then, that's, I mean, 18 plus on Netflix, that makes sense.
So the age, CPR, columns there. And this is the and then choose.
Appropriate.
Yeah.
Mhm.
There you go, so then, that's actually. It's a really simple tool that shows that we're on it. this one.
So it's the same, not, 18 plus on Hulu, it's about 400 or so, and then Netflix is like,
Yeah. 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 So your team goes to
I one time was doing something here and I got rid of this and I couldn't get it back.
yeah, so if you, that's what happens to me all the time. Get rid of this, try and grab it back. You actually have to go into here, go show there.
Oh, I was like clicking over there, like, I just deleted it and redid it, because I couldn't figure out how to get it back.
So, roll backwards. Or is
I
this?
can go back and.
Oh, no, there we go. So if you want to change to whatever actually. So, we got something worked out.
You did it for me, but
Well, yeah.
it's complicated. It's okay, I still learned something, so that's okay.
By the end of this, it will be easy. It's just reps, reps, reps.
I'm fighting with, dividing this out by grade level.
Okay, let me,
I analyzed some data, but
So, if we publish it, we can go back in and edit and republish it, right?
absolutely. All right, Connor, Carmen, I'm gonna go ahead and end the stream here. If you guys have questions, just Slack me and, we can work back and forth through there. I'll be in here for the next half hour or so. So definitely plenty of time. Otherwise, we will see you on Wednesday. Thank you.